Hey, I'm Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list.
In October 2019, Arlington, Texas was chosen to be the home of a new national museum, unlike any other. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a unique home of military history. The 100,000 square foot museum will house exhibits, archives, and artifacts relating to the 3,500 U.S. troops who have been awarded the medal, the nation's highest honor for valor in combat. The museum will have 31,000 square feet of galleries dedicated to U.S. troops who have received the award. The museum CEO, former Navy SEAL and NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy, said the museum will focus on education as much as preservation. The building will have 5 areas dedicated to Medal of Honor winners from the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. The main gallery will be located in a central plaza under a 25,000 square foot slab of steel, which will appear to be suspended in midair. It will be supported by 5 pillars. Black Rifle Coffee is a corporate sponsor of the museum, as are the Dallas Cowboys. The museum's board also includes over a dozen major corporations and 6 Medal of Honor recipients, including David Bellavia, Patrick Brady, and Britt Slabinski. Army Staff Sergeant Bellavia was awarded the medal for clearing an entire house by himself on November 10, 2004, as a squad leader in support of Operation Phantom Fury in Fallujah, Iraq. He killed 4 enemy fighters and wounded a 5th in close quarters battle. Army Major General Brady flew and coordinated the evacuation of 51 seriously wounded men during a firefight in Vietnam in January 1968. Slabinski, a Navy SEAL chief and team leader, led a rescue team of SEALs during Operation Anaconda in Afghanistan in March 2002. Slabinski and his team flew to a mountaintop ambush site to rescue Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts, who had fallen from the back of a helicopter. Slabinski led the team through almost constant combat against an entrenched Taliban force. Along with the board members, former presidents Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama serve as honorary directors. The museum is expected to open to the public in late 2024.
All right. Welcome back. MisFitNation. The MisFitNation Show. We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the MisFitNation Show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_MisFitNation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All right. Welcome back to the MisFitNation Show. We are live on Sunday in your after dinner show. I know a lot of you are still watching football. A lot of your teams may have won. My team, of course, lost. New York Giants will not win a game this year, and that's just the sad, honest truth. They are not good. The Irish had a bad day yesterday. I don't think it was a tapestry of what they are this year. It's just a bad day. They did not prepare for a game. For the rest of you who watch NASCAR and those who like Joey Logano, good on you. And those who don't, I know what you're feeling. But let's get on with a great show tonight. We have a great guest. But first, we'll pay our respects to yet another officer we lost in the last week. Police Officer Zane Coolidge from the Phoenix Police Department, Arizona. End to watch September 6th, 2024. Please keep his family, friends, peers in your thoughts and prayers as they go through this tough time. And hopefully by Tuesday, we don't have to add another person for the Tuesday Cruise show. Tonight, we have a person whose life is a tapestry of incredible experiences, starting with not one, not two, but multiple healing journeys. She's danced on the precipice of death, and during her harrowing 70 days hospital battle with COVID, she discovered the incredible power of the human spirit. Now, here's where things get truly extraordinary. While in a coma, she had several otherworldly out-of-body experiences and 2 near-death experiences that defies description. It was as if the universe itself reached out to save her, offering a series of miraculous interventions that brought her back from the brink. So without further ado, let's welcome Holly Porter to the MisFitNation Show. Welcome, Holly.
Hi, thank you for having me. Great to be here.
It's great to have you here. And I have to admit one thing. When I first seen your name pop up on my thing, I thought it said Harry Potter. I said, there's no way he's actually coming on the show. But
You're not alone, especially when we used to write checks and it was popular.
man.
People always thought I said that. Yeah.
I forgot to tell you that in the green room. I was laughing about that with my daughter the other day. I said, I misread this one completely. And then I realized it was Holly, not Harry. And I'm good.
And it's a girl,
Holly,
not a guy.
it's all crazy. It's all otherworldly. See, it all comes together. So Holly, like I told you in the green room, I'll just give a little bit about you. I want you to tell the Misfit Nation more about you from as far back as you want to go to how we got here.
Yeah. Well, I have been an entrepreneur all my life. It's in my blood. Both my parents were entrepreneurs. And I've had jobs, but I really like just doing my own thing. I've always had probably 3 or 4 companies at a time. I've had 11 startup companies, and they really didn't coordinate necessarily with each other. They coordinated with my life. So when I had small children, I had a daycare and then a preschool and then a kids clothing store. As they got older, the longest things I've had is a salon and spa I had for 20 years. I'm a real estate broker. I've done that for almost 20 years as well. So my life really changed. We raised 8 children. We've been empty nesters for, gosh, I think we're going on 12 years now. Wow. My baby's almost 30. It's crazy. And they're all adults. We have 17 grandkids. So when I had this experience that we were talking about, I got COVID like so many. And my story isn't different than a lot of people's, but what is different is that I walked out of there alive, going through with what I did. And I am grateful every day. I don't want to waste one moment of time. I've got things to do or I wouldn't have been saved, right? And that's right. I understand that we all suffered. The whole world suffered at the same time with COVID. I can't think of anything in the history of the world, and maybe there is way, way, way back, but where the whole world at the same time suffered, especially because of social media. We're aware, right?
Right. And everyone was turned on. I mean, if you weren't turned on during that whole pandemic, 2 or 3 years, something's wrong with you if you weren't turned on during it, because everyone was thinking about what could happen next. What's the next thing that's going to go on? And for you, it was 70 days of battling. You had to battle for 70 days. And when it first started, when you went in the hospital, I'm sure you didn't think it would be that bad. How did you feel in there when it started to turn for the worse and then come back out of the light?
Well, actually, when I was already home for a week. We were living in a fifth wheel waiting for our home to close, which we ended up not being able to close because they didn't know if I was going to live so many of those days. So I fought it at home because I'm a natural healer. I was a healthy person. So they didn't even have one record on me at the hospital when I got in there. And the first 5 weeks in the first hospital, I walked out with 422. They did everything. But when I went in, my husband also, I gave COVID. I had the Delta version, got home from a conference. He got it a couple days behind me. So we were both like locked up in this fifth wheel. Family were just like leaving food on the outside because we didn't want anyone to be around us and feel like we were scared. And I don't know how he drove us to the hospital. I woke up about 4:30 after a week, and I just intuitively knew that I was in trouble. I felt like I had an elephant sitting on my chest. So he drives us there somehow by the grace of God. And he pulls up in the front, drops me off. And he said, by the time I parked, I came in, they already had you in the ICU. My oxygen was 63. And 100 is perfect, right? Yeah. So it was so low. I mean, I was out of there, and he had COVID, so they wouldn't let him come see me. And I didn't get to see him for 3.5 weeks of that time until he could come. And then he could only come for a couple hours because he was so weak and sick. He was on oxygen, but he was never hospitalized. So I had a couple sisters. I have lots of family, but the two main twin sisters, just younger than me, they intuitively knew that I needed someone there. I was allowed one person every 24 hours, and they would just take shifts. I also had like a son come a couple times and a daughter come a few times. And, just here and there, people would stay with me when they couldn't. But I had someone there, which was, I think, saved my life in itself because it was really bad at the time. And when I was 4 days before they put me on the first ventilation, the intubation, and I had to make up, like, they literally make you sign. And in real estate, we call that signing under duress. I don't know how they can get away with that legally. You're signing your life away on all this paperwork before they'll do anything. And my husband's home on the phone, and my sisters got us on a conference call. I still have that recording, and I cry when I listen to it because I remember that feeling of I couldn't breathe. And in the end, nobody wanted to make the decision, especially for me. And I remember in the recording just saying, all I know is I can't breathe, and I'm going to have to take my chances because my organs were going to start shutting down and there were going to be other complications. So like, I just took a leap of faith that if it's my time, it's my time. I was never afraid to die. And we can go in and talk about that a little bit too, but that's kind of the gist of it. And I lost all 5 senses at one time. The taste and smell were gone from COVID. They tie your hands to the bed when you're vented. I don't know if you knew that. So you won't pull it out. Not like I wanted to. I was saving my life. I liked my breath. And I'm legally blind already. And so if I didn't have glasses or contacts in, which I didn't a lot of the time, I couldn't see who anyone was unless they were about 8 inches in front of me. And then they all had a mask, the hat, the gown, yellow. Everybody looked the same. All I could see was eyes. And then somehow the ventilator took 90% of my hearing away. So it sounded like the Charlie Brown school teacher. That's how I heard people. So yeah, they had me in a coma a lot of that time. And I was grateful because it was not fun.
Wow. And with having grandkids, I know you know the minions, and I'm sure that's what all the yellow people look like in your room, hearing those voices. Yeah. It's like having the minions come in to hang out with you.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Horrifying for one, and then like you said, it can't be really legal to have you sign papers when one you're tied to a bed, you're intubated, and you can't see. So yeah, all those things come in there into effect right there, and it's
and anxiety. I never had that. It was off the charts. The nurses said to my sisters, "Are you sure she wasn't on medication before? Because it's really bad." And I'm thinking to myself, let me pull your oxygen away from you and take your oxygen away, and let's see how you react. You can't breathe. You are a little out of sorts.
You're way out of it at that point. So as you battle through this, I talked about the otherworldly experiences. Would you like to dive into a little bit of those things you saw, I guess, from seeing the light or not seeing the light in your dreams while you're out there?
Yeah, the first one I want to share. So back when you read I had 2 near death, I learned just about a year ago that I thought it was 2 near death, but what it was actually was 1 near death and then 1 spiritual transformational experience. So they call that a STE. So there's 3 things that I know of. 3 is out of body experience, a near death experience, and a spiritual transformational experience. So I thought that near death and spiritual were just 2 separate events. I mean, they were 2 separate events, but I'll tell you about that one first. So that one, and I'm really good at getting through without crying. I cried for 2 years after, and now I feel like I got it. I'll hold it together most of the time. That one was when I knew I would live. Like that was that story. I had a cousin, which it lives in Arizona, a little bit more like a sister. So you have that little sister rivalry, stuff going on. Anyway, she wrote a text to my sisters. Both of them, I don't remember who was with me that read it to me, but I wasn't doing well. And which many of the days I wasn't doing well. And she just said, I really feel like you need to read this. I wouldn't put this experience in a text, but she had a spiritual experience where all of these passed on relatives came to her. She asked who they were and got their names, and she listed all their names. And basically, I think the gist of the message was to let me know I have people on both sides praying and doing things for me. Well, I went back in, or they put me back in the coma. A lot of times I was in a paralyzed coma, just so you heal. And I remember being ticked off. I remember praying many times while I was in there, like, is this it? Like, is this the end? What kind of legacy am I leaving? Did I do enough? Am I enough? Was I enough? All of those thoughts go through your mind. This particular prayer was, look, if this isn't fair, she got that experience. I'm the one suffering. Why didn't I get that experience? I was mad because my mom had just passed away like a year and a half before. A grandbaby had just died like 6 months before. So like it was pretty fresh for me. And I'm mad. And at that moment, my mom came to me, and she came on my right side, which many healer friends of mine all said that. And it was interesting. They would all mention the right side. I never asked, but I knew that she was on my right side. Nice to get that confirmation. And that particular time she came and said, it's not your time. You have got to fight. And you hear a lot of people that have near-death experiences say that similar thing, but it is true. That's what she said. And she said, fight. And then in front of my bed, and we can talk about my bed because my bed is very significant in my whole story, but all these relatives that had passed on came and appeared in front of me in white. So, and even my grandbaby was there, but she wasn't a child anymore. She was a matured adult, but I knew it was her. And they started chanting, fight, fight. Every time the word fight, which I don't like that word, so it's interesting that was the word, there would be another group of people behind them appear. So, my husband would show up, and my siblings and all my children, and then friends. And then it went back as far as I could see. Like if you were looking in a mirror, a double mirror, and you could just see forever, it was like people I didn't even know, which I believe now were people that were on prayer lists for me. So my friends and their friends of friends and asking for prayers on my behalf, I believe that was who all those people were. And it was that moment, it's so defined, because it was like the prayer was, if you're not going to get me better, God, then get me out of here, because this sucks. And I'm okay either way. Like I really was. And the word fight was like, okay, I got it. I mean, it was like the defining line in the sand that was, look, you're going to survive. You're getting through this. It wasn't easy. Trust me. It was a long road back. Still is some days because I have long COVID. And I knew I'd live. And so I was so grateful to get that experience so I called that a near death at first, what it really was, a spiritual transformational experience.
I think all I can say out there is wow. And amazing that the battle you put on and the resilience you've shown and the grit, and to come out of it and now realize what was going on. Did any of that shock you as it came to fruition? That was actually what was going on?
No, not at all. I'm pretty intuitive normally, but it got turned on, I'd say, more from then on. I don't know. You say woo woo. I don't know. Some people say you're woo woo. I'm a little woo woo maybe, but to me, I feel like the gift of knowing. I always had that. And people ask, how do you know that? But when you have that gift, you just know that. You're not like smarter than anybody. You're just aware that whatever it is, you know. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does to me. Hopefully the audience understands that as well. And I don't think it is woo woo. I mean, I think we've all had some kind of experience that we could not understand at the time, but then later you kind of come to this realization of what it was. And I think this was your aha moment, and having mom come to you on your right side in your hospital bed, which you said we'll talk about later, the layout of the bed. And that's something I think not many people can get to the brass tacks of it, of how it happened, or the why behind it. So if you want to go
Yeah.
a little more in depth on that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, I just feel grateful that I was able to have those experiences, especially because, when people have a near death, they get that. And I even remember having a out of body experience, which may have been a near death. I'm not sure what to call that one when I was a kid. And I didn't remember that until about a year ago. So there was a lot of things there. There is something I had done. I will share. Last December, I had a hypnosis session because we're writing a book. And I wanted to know that I felt like the out of body experiences I had down, the spiritual one I had down, but the near death, there were some gaps missing. And that could be a whole show in itself, probably 2 or 3 actually, because there were so many great things that came out of that. But I knew it was missing parts. And now I also know that when the time is right, it'll be revealed to me. But I don't need to know everything. And I probably couldn't handle everything that I saw. So as I continue to go on my journey and do what I'm supposed to be doing, because I survived, then I think more will be revealed to me. But it's been, I can give you cold chills, some of the things. It's been amazing. The bed situation was the out of body, all of those, I traveled back in time.
Wow.
And I was in a little Utah town called Perwin, Utah, and most of the time. And it was 165 years ago, the house was built. So it was back in time that far. I never went in the future, but there were some crazy stories there. But I always took my bed with me. Like I pictured a ambulance hooking up to my room that was like a Connex storage crate, tote, whatever. And it would take me on my journey for the day. But I think looking back, I would take my bed because I think intuitively, I thought, if I leave my bed, my body's laying there and I might not get it back. So it went with me. I was determined to go on the journey, but I was going to make sure I came back and in my body.
And I love that bed.
So one of the chapters in the book's called Me and My Bed. Me and My Bed did lots of things, but the ironic thing about that is we traveled. There's so many things I can tell you. So the bed went with me in the near-death experience, but not once I got there. So I traveled to there, and I think that's when I was probably doing really bad. And what is kind of interesting is as you kind of put the pieces together over time, so all these other beds were going with me. So picture like a football stadium. You're a football guy, right?
Yes.
So a football stadium and how it has all the boxes up at the top where all the fancy people get to go, right? That's where all the beds got to go because they couldn't sit in a chair. They were in a bed. So we traveled there and we got those boxes, and that's how I got there. And then the near death started after that. But looking back, I think that all those people going in the beds were like half the people in the hospital were dying that were in there with COVID. And so I think they were the people dying and I was on my way. Right. And I think that's why all the beds were leaving. And I remember kind of an eerie story. A friend of mine, I was having lunch with her quite a bit, like a year and a half after all this. And her husband came out and she said, "This is my friend that was in the hospital so bad with COVID." And one of his little side jobs is he delivers medical equipment. And he said, he looked at me and he said, "Can I hug you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, "When you were in there," he goes, "I can't tell you how many body bags we brought to the hospital."
Oh, wow.
And he said, "I prayed so hard that you wouldn't be in one of them." And I was like, "Oh, that was just so sweet," But I've heard so many little stories like that of people that, I had a friend go drive 2 hours away and 2 hours back to bring a friend that is kind of more of a woo-woo person and had her like sit outside the hospital and pray for me. And I was just like, so many kind people there. They're here. There's kind people everywhere.
It definitely is. And sometimes you just have to open your eyes and you'll see them. Sometimes when we walk around with blinders on and don't see them, and just open up and see your aperture and see everything, you'll see those kind people out there that are willing to not only just listen, but also hear what you're saying and have something even of value to give back to you. And I know for him to say that I delivered this stuff and delivered all these body bags, and thank God you're not in there. One, for him to have to deliver all that during that period had to be painful for him. On top of this. And then for you to hear how many bags were delivered while you were in that period of your time, that had to be a shocker as well.
Yeah. One other experience I had was when I was doing pulmonary rehab. I did every rehab there was. And there was only 2 of us in the program. And I knew the other guy. He kind of followed my journey, but was about a month ahead of me. And so I knew he was going there. And I asked the respiratory therapist when I was doing some testing, I said, yeah, can you tell me why there's only 2 of us doing that when there's COVID's still pretty, it's around, like a lot of people still have it and things. And she like stopped and backed up and turned around, looked me straight in the eyes. And she said, because they don't live to need it. And I was just like so humbled by that. Like she was basically saying people that need pulmonary rehab from COVID didn't live.
That's right. I know my brother worked still does work in the hospital in Newark, New Jersey, and he up there in the north, it was a lot worse than it was down here, of course. Down here, we didn't shut down really. We didn't really see the effects as everyone else in north.
Yeah, us either.
Yeah. So he was telling me about these refrigerator trucks outside his office that he could see getting filled with the bodies. And I was like, I thought this was all just some fake news kind of thing going on. And we didn't realize how bad it was up there as compared to what we had it here. It was like night and day to what we were doing.
Wow. Oh, so humbling.
Yeah, it's really weird that there was in one country, there was so many different stories going on at the same time.
Yeah.
With the same history that was going on.
Right. Well, now you have the long COVID and there's over 200 symptoms and there's over 100 million documented cases. So that's pretty much everything. It affected every organ. There's so many people suffering that they're not even aware they have long COVID. But if you trace it back to some of your things happening since you had COVID, you probably have long COVID.
Wow.
It just catches everything on fire.
I don't wish that on anyone. Hopefully, I know you're still battling, and you'll still be battling, especially with long COVID. And I know that you're spreading that mission. You have a mission of hope to help other people. Tell us a little about that and how your international speaking and your guidance, the world of wellness of advocacy, works within that.
Absolutely. I have never been so passionate about wellness. And my saying is better's better. Even if you're just a little better, when you're not better, it kind of stinks. And so to me, I have such a long list of things I would do to get better. And when people would ask me, like, what are you doing? I mean, I lost 85% of my hair. I've got to pull back now, but it's all grown back. But it's, being a hairdresser for so many years, that was devastating to feel like I was a cancer patient and hair was just coming out everywhere. So I probably had at least 75 of those 200 symptoms at some time or other. It matters so much to me. I'm so passionate about it. And we have a nonprofit called Adventure Bucket Wish Foundation, and we help spread hope and awareness about long COVID. It is important to me. The challenge is I'm getting better. I'm probably about 85%, even though I've got some diagnoses, they don't necessarily go away. And better's better. So it's challenging to be around, for me to be around people that aren't as positive, or some people just want to live in sick. They want to be the victim because they get attention. And I'm not that person. And so I really have struggled with it the last few months, even the nonprofit. We're even looking at changing the mission, which is kind of hard for me because I'm so passionate about it. So I have someone else I partnered with that I might serve with them, and we may change our mission of our nonprofit. It's been tough.
What is the overall mission right now of the nonprofit as you start to change it?
Yeah, it's really to help people cross over to the bridge of wellness and advocate for them, let them have a community where they can feel heard and be heard, and just resources, because the doctors literally, they want to do this and they want to do this.
Yep.
And pretend it's going to go away. And with 100 million documented cases, there's way more. It's not going away. And so I think it's just, when I go to my doctors, and I'm pretty picky about my doctors, they always tell me, I learned from you. Like, I know more than they do. And so if I've done my research and I come in and I feel like, hey, I want to go this route, I want to try this, they totally support me because they don't know. And I always say, I should be billing you. Right? But there were so many miracles behind my story that I want people to have that hope and know everybody deserves miracles. I had handfuls. I mean, one in particular, I never my whole life had medical insurance. And being a military guy, you have some great insurance. I know, because my son's in military. But we never did. We were entrepreneurs and we just never were sick, and our kids were healthy. And I mean, knock on wood, we just never had any major emergencies. And 2 months before I got sick, I got insurance and my bill was over $1 million. So that was a miracle.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's over $1 million, 70 days in the hospital on every machine imaginable, probably. And
Yeah. Yeah.
they got their due diligence, I guess, in the billing department. Hopefully your deductible was only.
I had her print it and she said, I've never had a file this big. I mean, it was like 4 inches high. Well,
Wow.
422, records and stuff. And I needed it because I ended up having another policy that was a rider to a cancer policy. That was the only thing I did have, was that. And it had a backup plan for the ICU.
Oh,
And so I ended up getting, and it really helped us get into our house. I ended up getting like $27,000 because I was in the ICU for so many days that they paid out to me. Like, that wasn't towards my hospital or nothing. That was just like a check in the mail. So
wow.
that was a miracle.
Yeah. That is amazing, actually. And all through this, even though you were going through the I guess the roller coaster of COVID and 70 days of not knowing, your family not knowing if you were coming home because of the
Yeah.
restrictions on you being in there and them not being really allowed to get in there. And when you come out, you come out basically like a fighter, because you go through the rehab and you're still doing some of that stuff, recovery stuff, but you're
Yeah.
also advocating for those others who have been through not just COVID, but other things. You're writing your
Yeah.
book so everyone can see your story. That's just a testament to you and what you have done, what your life is about. When does the book come out, or when do you expect the book to come out?
I don't have an exact date because I have still some COVID fog. It was a year ago, it was way worse. I did solicit a friend that is a writer to help me. So we did all the interviews and everything. And then her husband got sick. So it's been a challenge getting it a date and finished up. I'm hoping by the end of the year. I'm kind of dependent on her. It would be done already and already out if it was up to me. But, now he's ill. And so I have a heart for sick people. My mom was always one that always she died from Parkinson's, but even before that, she was always so kind to people that sympathize with people with pain and things. And I do now, but before I was like, suck it up, buttercup. I just never was sick.
You'll be all right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You're on a ventilator, but you'll be fine.
It's a small ventilator. You'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's left me a nice little trach scar because I was intubated twice and had a trach and had sepsis and a couple other life-threatening infections that I should have died from. So, like, there were so many things trying to take me out, but
all at the same
I'm
time.
here.
Amazing. And then, like, even in the green room, when you told me what's going on with you right now, it was just matter of factly how you said it to me, and I was like, wow, okay. So it's just it's like that thick skin you have now, and the thickness of knowing that things can happen and you have to just deal with it. Because right now, your family's going through some stuff right now that not many families go through, and you're just dealing with it like a champ.
Yeah. Oh, it's been a week. My husband got on a head-on collision, but you know what? He didn't feel a thing. But his brand new truck of 3 months, first brand new vehicle he's ever bought, and now it's like needs a new frame. And and then we had our house for sale, and they wanted us to move right during when my daughter was going to be having surgery. So you just like roll with the punches, and you know what? I feel so much more at peace than I have in the last 3 years, and that's a good place to be because I prayed for that. I had a rough couple of years after I got out of the hospital, like the worst. Like, I thought many days I wanted to die because I thought, if God brought me through this and he saved my life, why am I going through this hell, so to speak? And I know now why. I know it's for some future mission, but it was awful. I mean, I've been through divorces and, loss of businesses and embezzlements from businesses and all kinds of things. And that was 10 times worse than anything I'd ever been through. So how do you come from such a spiritual place to that awful rock bottom? It was tough, but I can tell you it's meant to be. And I know it's going to make me stronger for what I need to do.
He definitely will. And just listening to you, I've known you for 39 minutes now from the time you got on. And I understand that you have a giving heart, and you have you're a person that wants others to do well, even when you're not doing well, you want them to be well as and
Absolutely.
love
I'll
you.
be your biggest cheerleader.
And that's amazing in its own right. And I think my audience gets a lot from that as well. And they're pumped up in the chat saying yes, yes, and things like that. My brother earlier said that when you were talking about the out of body stuff, he said he felt like he was seeing the Blues Brothers church scene during that part right there. He was laughing saying that, so I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh,
And
that's cute. Yeah. There's lots to that. Like I said, it could be lots of shows because I had lots of funny experiences, some creepy experiences. I mean, I traveled all over. My sister said, "You never left this room." I'm like, "Oh, yes, I did."
I don't know where my passport's been now.
I went everywhere. I didn't really go everywhere, but I went a lot of places.
You went to a lot of bucket list places. Probably you're not going to in person yet.
Speaking of that, one thing that I noticed came right off my bucket list was, and how I noticed was, you go in the hospital that long, you're going to end up with PTSD, some depression, some anxiety. I just hadn't experienced all those before, especially at the same time. But I was watching somebody scuba dive, and that was one thing I was going to get certified for. And also skydiving. And I'll tell you what, skydiving I might do, but I was hyperventilating watching these people underwater because I think I just couldn't breathe. That was that feeling when I was, in my state I was. And I was like, nope, not ever doing that. I mean, it's funny how things can just change in a moment in time.
Yes. Today, I took my wife. We've been married 30 years, and she's deathly afraid of swimming. Today, we went to a pool for the first time together, and I taught her to swim within 30 minutes. And
Yay!
She got over the same fear of being claustrophobic underwater and such like that. Within 30 minutes, she was doing a lap. So it was
amazing.
A great feeling for me, great feeling for her. And now we can move forward and get her as a stronger swimmer. And because every time we go on a trip, I want to do the scuba diving. I want to do all the snorkel stuff. And she was just that way. I don't want to do it. That's just doesn't seem right. Something bad's going to happen if we go in there because I don't know how to swim. I always told her it's just we'll be all right. And today she finally got over that hump.
Well, Think and Grow Rich talks, one of their principles is about decision making, and you can make a decision in 1 second. And she just had to make that decision that she could do it.
Yes, 100%. And it was a great day in the pool, and we'll keep moving that momentum forward.
Yeah. Congratulations.
So as we wind down here, if you can give the audience 3 things they can do on a daily basis to have a better day, to move their life in a better direction, what would that be?
Wow. 3. Okay. Well, the first thing is to have gratitude. Really, that starts it all. Second thing I would say, drink your water. I think that helps your whole body. And that's a new meaning for me. And then the third thing was the message I came back from with the actual near-death experience was to love them where they're at. So people in general, love them where they're at because it takes the judgment away. It's who they are, and just love them through it.
Don't make them change for you. Definitely 100%. How do people get in contact with you if they want to have you on the show, or maybe have you come speak to their organization or speak to them virtually, or just learn from you?
Yeah. Holly at hollyporter.com is my email, and my website's just hollyporter.com. That'll get you some info, and there's a contact form on there as well. So either way, I'm on all social media. Love to hear people's feedback. That lights me up.
Awesome. Put your website across the bottom of the screen now. There it is. Holly, this has been awesome. I told you I try to keep it quick so you can get back to what's going on in your family.
Thank you.
I'd love to keep talking to you, but I know you have things you have to do right there in the 15-meter square there that we can't keep you from. So thank you for taking the time to hang out with us tonight. This has been awesome. You have a great night. Take care of your family, and we'll be praying for you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Have a good night.
Bye for now.
Bye.
This is a message from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Got a question about your VA benefits, healthcare, or eligibility? Go to va.gov, where you can access a new interactive chatbot to ask questions 24/7. One can still browse va.gov for information, but you can now ask specific questions to the chatbot, like what's the PACT Act? How do I apply for disability benefits? What's my claim status? You can access the new feature through va.gov's Contact Us page. Then click on the Start Chat button. The chatbot will continue to improve veterans' access to information about the benefits and services they've earned. This is one way VA is offering seamless and secure access to its online resources.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation Show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling because we are Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.